A dark cloud continues to loom over our heroes as Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter number 52 is now officially in the history books. Vegeta had finally arrived on planet Yardrad after a week of traveling through the cosmos to get there, while elsewhere Goku is looking to tap back into and perfect Ultra Instinct by training with Merus, all while Moro continues to feast on all the life within Universe 7 as he begins to grow stronger by the day, with our heroes struggling to create a plan. Despite having to be outnumbered, however, the sinister and sadistic Moro has a few new tricks waiting for Goku and Vegeta up his sleeve. As once more before we begin, if you are new to this channel and have a love and passion for all things Dragon Ball and anime related, then be sure to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications to never miss a single upload on this channel, to in which if you guys love Dragon Ball Super and cannot wait for the next edition of the Dragon Ball Super manga, then be sure to give this video a big thumbs up by slapping that like button down below, as well as dropping your thoughts in the comment section below as to how you guys personally feel about the ongoing arc in the Dragon Ball Super manga. As before anything else, I want you guys to take a good look at the image having to be shown here, because this is Merus towards the end of this manga chapter, and the fighting pose that he gets into before having to continue his battle against Goku is eerily enough very similar to Whis' Wing Chun pose, to in which we are going to be discussing by the end of this manga chapter. But I want you guys to bear this in mind, because once you guys get towards the end of this video, you are going to learn a shocking revelation that Merus ends up revealing to Goku as we kick off Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter number 52 with Vegeta's inevitable arrival on planet Yardrad. Now bear in mind, it took Vegeta over 1 week to actually get here, and being that when he finally steps outside of the ship, all of the residential Yardrad civilians gather together in trying to figure out who, or more or less what is going on with the arrival of an unknown visitor, that being Vegeta, on their planet. And as the Yardrats stand there, the galactic pilot then goes on to comment, "So those are the Yardranians. I've never encountered them before." As Vegeta then goes on to comment, "I hear they come in multiple types." As one of the Yardrats goes on to tell the rest, "Move aside, folks," as we then observe different Yardranians having to step forward as they go on to greet Vegeta and the pilot by having to tell them, "Welcome, howdy." And with the pilot and Vegeta standing there, one of the Yardranians goes on to tell them, "You must be Vegeta. We heard all about you from Goku." As then they proceed to shake the pilot's hand, the Yardranians continue, "You look quite simple for a Saiyan," with the pilot then having to tell them, no, this is Vegeta." As the Yardranians take a good look in guiding Vegeta inside of one of their palaces, they then go on to state the Ginyu squad caused quite a stir on our planet before Goku defeated them. As Vegeta replies, "I do remember hearing that the Ginyu squad attacked this place." As the Yardranians continue, "So, we're eternally grateful for you and Goku since you took care of that problem." As Vegeta then goes on to ask, "Is that so? Well, you're welcome. In that case, who taught instant teleportation to Kakarot? Was it one of you lot?" As one of the Yardranians goes on to ask, "You lot? Whoops. Sorry, I'm here on my own." As both Vegeta and the pilot are absolutely baffled as to what happened to the rest of the members, they then go on to ask, "Where do they all go?" With the one single Yardranian having to then tell Vegeta and the pilot, "We're a pretty weak race, you see, so sometimes we make copies like that so people don't mess with us." As the pilot asks copies, the Yardranian then goes on to tell them both, "Come on in and meet the Elder." As both Vegeta and the pilot do in fact come across the Elder Yardranian then goes on to tell Vegeta, "The one who taught Goku instant teleportation was me." So we finally get to find out and see for ourselves the very person that taught Goku instant transmission. As the smaller Namekian then goes on to introduce the Elder and having to state, "Introducing Elder Priba." As Priba then goes on to ask, "You must be Vegeta. You look quite simple for a Saiyan," once again shaking the hand of the galactic pilot, as I find it funny how the galactic pilot then goes on to comment, "I'm not Vegeta, he is." As Piper then goes on to state, "Well, I think I understand you're hoping to beat this Moro fellow." As Vegeta agrees, he then goes on to state, "Yes. So do you have a technique to make that happen?" As Piper responds, "There's been a misunderstanding, I'm afraid. We are not blessed with some great wealth of techniques. With Vegeta being taken back, he then goes on to ask, what? As Pybra continues, we devote our studies to only a single thing. It is a form that our abilities are born from. As Vegeta asks, and what thing is that? With the Elder responding, spirit control. With Vegeta asking, meaning? As the smaller Yardranian then goes on to tell Vegeta, what we call spirit, Goku calls chi. You know about it? With Vegeta turning around, he then goes on to respond, by that name, yes. As they instantly begin to vanish, the smaller individual then goes on to tell Vegeta instant teleportation, making copies, even gigantification. As we then observe how the Elder is in fact a much smaller version of the Yardranian, Vegeta then baffled goes on to ask, that's your normal size? As the Elder then goes on to tell him, these are achieved by shifting, splitting, and growing one's very spirit. Everyone on Yardrat can do these things. Study how the spirit functions, and the path will open to you as well. As Vegeta then finally agrees, he then goes on to tell him, very well. Teach me this so-called spirit control. So, the ability that Vegeta so desperately wants to learn in order to combat against Moro is something called spirit control. Now, it's because of this you're able to move instantaneously, you're able to use gigantification, you're able to make copies of yourself. So, this is the technique that Vegeta is eventually going to learn. As we go back to the Galactic Patrol HQ, the narration then goes on to state a few days after Vegeta landed on Yardrat, Goku traveled to another planet to train with Merus. As of course, Merus went along to tell Jocko, I'll be away from HQ for a bit, but contact me if you need anything. As Jocko replies, Roger that, we'll handle things here. As the narration continues, with no major changes to speak of, time passes unproductively at HQ. As the pilots then go on to comment, looks like the convicts showed up on planet Chip. We just dispatched agents to Planet Ricci. We're running low on personnel. As another individual then goes on to comment, with Vegeta missing and Goku training with Merus, we're clearly short-staffed. As the king then goes on to state, we're in need of new special recruits then. As he then turns towards Jocko, he then goes on to ask, how about the sector you manage, Jocko? As Jocko scratches his head, he goes on to reply, yeah, you mean, people who'd come willingly, right? As the king then goes on to ask, what about the other warriors from the match against Universe 6? Where is he? Could we summon him here? As of course the king is referencing to Hit, Jocko instead goes on to comment, oh of course, Monaka. As the king then goes on to reply, no, which clearly there is a misunderstanding, but we go back to Piccolo on Earth, who is seemingly meditating on Kame's lookout. As Piccolo finally then opens his eyes, he then goes on to state, no good. I can't reach anyone on New Namek. As Dende asks, our telepathy does have its limits, but that's just how it is. As Piccolo replies, I guess that could just be it. Unless the Namekians capable of telepathy are all dead. As Dende asks, you don't mean... As Piccolo then stands up, he then goes on to comment, if nothing else, I'm certain that something terrible is happening out in space. And Piccolo is absolutely right, because on the previous manga chapter, we know that 3 of Moro's goons are in fact actually heading towards Earth, as one of them goes on to cry out, look there, that's Earth. That planet is as pretty as a picture. Here's hoping that it got plenty of blue urim, so of course they go on to go to Earth for the sole purpose of having to steal resources and do whatever they need to do, as of course they needed to land initially. With Piccolo picking this up, Dende went along to ask, what is it? With Piccolo responding, someone's approaching Earth. As Dende asks, who? Do they have something to do with whatever nasty business is happening out in the galaxy? As Piccolo responds, I'm not sure. 1, 2, 3 of them. I'll check it out. As Dende tells him be careful, Piccolo then goes on to respond, do not worry, their chi signatures are weak. As Piccolo initially dashes away from Kame's lookout in further having to track the ship, before the ship actually even goes as far as to land, Piccolo is already there simply waiting. As the bandits then go on to comment, we can land around here without drawing attention. Great, set her down in a good spot. As one of them notice Piccolo, they then go on to ask, someone's down there. With the leader then having to stare back out, he then goes on to ask, what does he want? Maybe he saw us flying from space. What a pain. Go on and blast them to bits. As they all agree, they pull out cannons from their ship and blast Piccolo from above, and essentially having to shoot down on him. And what's really fascinating here is the fact that we notice how through the dust and through the debris, the ship is hovering over the actual spot where they fired at Piccolo, and further having to complement each other and having to stay, sharp shooting, further asserting the position that Piccolo is dead, as the smallest member then goes on to comment, bro, he's gone, not knowing the fact that Piccolo is actually above the ship. As they go on to ask where'd he go, the littlest member then goes on to tell them, up there, above us. What? And as Piccolo looks down, he then goes on to tell them, shooting without asking questions. Rudest guest I've ever met. With the leader then having to state, who the heck is this guy? As we go back to Kame's lookout with Popo and Dende having to observe, Dende then goes on to comment, they certainly don't seem like big threats, as out of nowhere, Bulma comes swooping on in with her ship, as she goes on to greet Dende and asking, Dende, how's it going? With Dende responding, Bulma? What brings you here? With Bulma touching back down, she then went along to ask, is Piccolo around? With Dende commenting, Piccolo, he just left. Can I help you? With Bulma commenting, we just got word from Jocko. He's coming here to draft Piccolo into the Galactic Patrol. As Dende asks, huh? Wait a minute, is the Galactic Patrol battling someone or something at the moment? With Bulma asking, why don't you just ask Jocko directly? With Dende having to then state, okay, well please tell me everything you know. As Bulma responds, well, I don't have the details, but, and as of course we go back to Piccolo and having to fight off against the 3 bandits that have now landed on Earth, what I really end up appreciating here is the fact that Toriotaro had thought about including Piccolo in this arc, even if it means him having to fight off against some of the lowest ranking members within Moro's army. It still gives him a role in this pivotal arc in allowing him to be a part of the story, as of course one of the individuals really tries to use this energy whip-like attack to get the better of Piccolo, and every single time he attempts to whip Piccolo or at least attack him, Piccolo simply dodges in moving out of the way. So I love the expression that Piccolo has in really not caring that much about these individuals to actually go all in with his power, but meanwhile on the cliffside above, the ringleader of this little band of thieves actually uses somewhat of these little devices in chucking them up in the air and tossing them directly towards Piccolo's direction. And what these little things are little explosive devices which seem to catch Piccolo off guard the minute this individual throws them up in the sky, and with the initial member who ended up fighting Piccolo to begin with jumping out of the way, the ringleader ends up snapping his fingers as all of the explosive devices then begin to detonate, blowing up in Piccolo's face just as the band of thieves actually thought they had the upper hand on Piccolo this entire time. And with this massive explosion having to take place with all 3 seemingly have a plan to take Piccolo down, as one of the individuals ducks down, the 3rd remaining female individual charges right in through the smoke and debris in hopes of trying to catch Piccolo off guard by further trying to go as far as to extend her hand within the smoke in trying to pull Piccolo out, but instead what she ends up doing is pulling something that in fact does seem to resemble that of Piccolo, but by the end of it only turns out that she only ended up grabbing Piccolo's gi and not Piccolo himself. Why? Because Piccolo was so fast that he was able to teleport out of dodge, dropping his gi entirely, as through the smoke itself, I love how Piccolo then extends his hands in grabbing both of the individuals, one by the neck and one by the leg, and later then having to hoist them both back up in the sky, which of course we all know that Piccolo is the true OG Namekian in the Dragon Ball story, so of course Piccolo does deserve his due credit, as of course he is doing all the work in this given situation. And with Piccolo holding them up, he then went along to tell them, too bad for you, I'm more than used to that move. As they're telling him, no, get off of me, Piccolo then proceeds to toss them against the cliffside, knocking all 3 individuals down onto the ground. So essentially Piccolo won, as the ringleader then goes on to ask, What's with this planet? How'd it come to be home to powerful beings like this? As we go back to Kame's lookout, we observe how Jocko is speaking to Dende and Bulma, as he then goes on to tell them, get it? Namek is totally a dead planet now, and that same tragedy's playing out over and over across the galaxy. As Dende grabs onto his head and crying out, oh no, how awful, my fellow Namekians. Bulma then goes on to ask, and since Vegeta and Goku are off training, are you coming to Piccolo for help? As Jocko states, damn right, maybe also Son Goku's son or those baldies. I'm heading your way, so gather them up, okay? Kuririn, Tenshinhan, you got it, Goku's son, and be on alert. Moro sent a bunch of scout squads out into the galaxy. As Bulma states, oh yeah? Scouting for what? As Jocko tells her, planets for Moro to eat. You Earthlings may be totally wimply weaklings, but all those life forms that you got could possibly make your planet a targeted zone for Moro. He'll gobble the place up once he finds out. So Jocko is telling Bulma, listen, get Piccolo, get Krillin, get Tien, get Android 18, get Android 17, get Gohan. We need everybody to stand together right now, because if this dude finds out about Earth, he's going to be coming straight there. As of course, Dende went along to comment, oh no, what if, how would we recognize these scouts? As Jocko states, they'd come in groups of 2 or 3 in a long thing ship. As Dende cries out, it can't be, not knowing the fact that Piccolo doesn't know that these individuals are indeed scouts. As Piccolo then goes on to question them, who are you? Are you connected to whatever's happening out in space? As the leader then goes on to question, what are you talking about? We're just your friendly neighborhood aliens passing through. With Piccolo having to be eerily calm, he then goes on to tell Piccolo, sorry for just being so quick on the draw, I mean that's just us. We won't bother you none, so please let us go, okay? As they begin to talk amongst each other, one of them goes on to ask, we're really just gonna slick off? As the leader states, Moro will be itching to take this planet once we send our word. That'll be our chance to make off with the Blue Urim. As the third individual goes on to respond, smart thinking as always, bro. And with Piccolo turning around, he then goes on to comment, it's clear that you 3 aren't the source of the greater disturbance. As the leader responds, we sure ain't. You get it now, right? And Piccolo, not knowing the fact that these are liars, he lets them go. As he then proceeds to tell them, go on, and never come back. As they go on to tell Piccolo, much appreciated green fella, they go back on the ship and they're just about to take off. And as they take off, Bulma's ship is actually zipping right through. As she spots another ship just about to leave, she then goes on to comment something's flying away, with Dende crying out, wait, no, don't let them get away, Piccolo! With Piccolo asking Dende went along to tell Piccolo they're aligned with the gang causing the trouble around outer space. Don't let them go! And with the bandits then having to set course and trying to escape, what Piccolo ends up doing is shooting down the ship directly as he charges on in. What I really love is how Piccolo finally comes to the understanding that these individuals are indeed up to no good. And with Piccolo stepping forward on top of their ship, he then went along to ask, you tried to trick me, huh? As the individuals then radio in, they go on to respond, you're too late. We just sent a word to the main forces. It's only a matter of time before the convicts pay this rock a visit. As Piccolo asks, convicts? The ringleader then goes on to tell him, and a nice planet like this? Moro will gobble it down before you know what hit you. Serves you right. So word in fact did go back to Moro. As we go to Moro's ship, Moro then goes on to ask, what now, Sag? As Sag goes on to tell him incoming messages from the gang. They said, help us, then got cut off. What do we do, Lord Moro? As Moro states, if they've been killed, the planet they found must be host to strong beings indeed. As Sag replies, I guess so, Moro then tells him, it's worthy of verifying. Send a stronger scouting party. If it proves to be a quality planet, I will devour it myself. So Moro is telling them, listen, come back to me with word that this planet is worth it, and if in fact it turns out to be the case, I'm going to Earth and I'm going to devour it. As we go back to Merus and Goku, the narration then goes on to state as the forces of darkness approach upon the Earth, Goku and Merus begin training. So it would appear that Merus is using some type of a weapon to train against Goku, and every single time Goku in fact is trying to fight against this weapon, to no avail because Goku can't connect a single shot. As of course then Goku proceeds to kick, he tries to punch, but Merus is using this weapon well enough in knocking Goku around. So Goku essentially really doesn't have a chance in even having to deflect against the weapon in doing anything of the sorts because it would appear that Merus has the upper hand. And as Goku hits the ground, Merus, it's very evident, is skilled in what he does. As Goku slowly stands up, he goes on to tell him, ow, darn, it's not working. I gotta empty my heart and mind for that move to work, but when I'm fighting, my emotions are all over the place. I'm just not getting it. As Merus replies, no, it's not quite that simple. As he charges back directly towards Goku, now Merus is on the offensive because now he's trying to strike Goku, but Goku's the one that's dodging. As of course Merus tells him, rage, grief, joy, those strong emotions can translate to prodigious power, just like your Super Saiyan transformation. As Goku responds, yeah, that's one triggered by rage. As Merus continues, but the technique you're after is also the opposite. As of course Goku takes notice, he leaps behind. As he then steps forward in attempts to attack Merus again, Merus goes on to tell him it will activate when you achieve self-control in the face of a jarring shock to your emotions, such as Ultra Instinct. As Goku steps back, he then goes on to tell him, wait, you knew about it all along? As Merus tells him yes. I apologize for keeping this from you. As Goku tells him, no need to be sorry. You must have had a reason for keeping quiet, right? As Merus tells him yes. So Merus does know of Ultra Instinct, but he never wanted to tell Goku. As Goku then goes on to tell him, totally fine, say no more. I already know that you're a good guy and you want to beat Moro as bad as me, yeah? That's good enough for me. As Goku gets back into fighting position, he then goes on to tell him, so forget all of that and let's get back to training. It's not like we've got time in the world. As Merus agrees, he goes on to tell him, very well, any doubts I had are now gone. Follow me, Goku. As Goku states, what the? Merus walks into a pyramid, right? And this pyramid ends up taking Goku on the other side, which appears to be the hyperbolic time chamber, the room of spirit and time. And as Goku observes this, Merus goes on to tell him, your training will continue in here. As Goku states, oh, I know all about this place. The Chamber of Spirit and Time, right? As Merus goes on to ask, so you're familiar then? Every day that passes in the outside world gives us 3 days in here. As Goku states, only 3 days? Well, I guess any extra time is better than just none, since, we're short on it anyway. As Merus then goes on to tell him, while the time dilation is helpful, the fact is that space is sealed off from the world is just as important. As Goku begins to question this, Merus goes on to reply, because I can unleash my full power without anyone finding out. As Goku goes on to ask, oh yeah? So no holding back in here? As Merus gets into the Wing Chun position, very similar, a similar fighting pose to Whis, he then goes on to tell him, I will impart all I have to you. Though it won't be easy, are you prepared? As Goku goes on to get into fighting position, he then goes on to tell Merus, I was born ready. As the manga chapter special then comes to a close. Now, to further put this into context, Merus is a very skilled galactic patroller, even though in my own subjective bias, I don't think that Merus should be the one to further help Goku master and unlock Ultra Instinct, even though he does appear to be a very suitable teacher in teaching Goku the ways of trying to basically have cognitive awareness of his environment and giving him a little bit of insight as to how to move a tad bit better when it comes to combat alone, I still think that Whis, in and of itself being the strongest being within Universe 7, unquestionably should by default be the one to help Goku gauge Ultra Instinct and having to further master that down the line. But if they're going to be running with this concept and idea, then perhaps maybe this is a step in the right direction in having Goku then achieve Ultra Instinct a bit better than how he did against Jiren by further having to spar with Merus inside of the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. Now no, Merus is not a god of destruction, he doesn't appear to be a child of any of the angels, he isn't someone that actually perhaps has Ultra Instinct himself, but he does know of it. So in the end, I would like to know from you guys how you feel about Merus knowing about Ultra Instinct and the lessons that he is willing to provide to Goku in further aiding him against Moro, because this only then begs the question as to why Merus himself never directly got involved against Moro to begin with, even though he is and appears to be very skilled, despite the training that Vegeta is going to go through, despite the training that Goku is going to go through. Moro doesn't seem to be concerned or surprised or even worried about Goku and Vegeta at all, because now it appears that Moro has his sights set on bigger and better things, and this is only going to further intensify itself as of course we near the conclusion of this arc, which doesn't appear to be taking place anytime soon. But as we go into October, we're further going to find out what happens with Goku and Merus inside of the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, what kind of skill Vegeta is going to be learning on planet Yardrad, and many more things. But in the end, I would like to get your thoughts in the comment section below about Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter number 52. Did you guys enjoy the chapter? Did you guys dislike the chapter? What were some of your pros and cons about this manga chapter? But also, what are your thoughts on Moro and how he's been conducting himself in the Dragon Ball Super manga as a villain? Would you guys argue and say that thus far he has been unquestionably the best villain in the Dragon Ball Super series? Is he subpar to Frieza, Zamasu? What are some things that you believe he could work on to make himself into a better villain? And what are your overall expectations, predictions, and thoughts for the upcoming manga chapter, guys? I want to get your initial thoughts in the comment section below. Again, thank you all so much for your time. Thank you all so much for watching. If of course you guys cannot wait for more and are excited for Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 53, which of course will be released on October 20th of next month, then be sure to give this video a big fat like by slapping that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button, guys, and turn on all notifications to be a part of the God Squad. Tune back in for the next video. I cannot personally wait to see how this is all going to come to a head, because seeing as to what Vegeta had been up to and what Goku is currently doing, Moro doesn't seem to be concerned about Goku and Vegeta at all, but Goku and Vegeta perhaps do indeed have a plan to turn the ties on Moro, but that all is going to vary on their overall execution as to how they put a stop to it. So in the end, I want to get your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section, guys. Have a great day. Peace!
This is the Galactic Emperor of the Universe, and of course I'm here to tell you to subscribe to UnrealEntGaming.
Also follow UnrealEntGaming on these social media platforms to stay connected at all times. And if you don't, then very soon you will all be dead! Oh, did someone say UnrealEntGaming? Oh my god.
The fuck's up, on? Put on some clothes!
Well, why don't you put on any clothes?
What? I don't need clothes. Jesus Christ, that's huge! What, Broly?
Frieza.
Uh-oh.
Prepare to die!